Previously on Shelfies.
And
Whoa, look at
look
this!
at that! Look at that! And the man, the myth, the legend, Stephen Jones from Always.
So people think that being a brewer is a glamorous thing, but this is the only glamorous bit of it.
Right, exactly.
cheers,
it's mostly,
cheers.
it's mostly cleaning. That's what
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
so
that's
much.
right. It is mostly cleaning. Hey, guess what I did all day today?
Cleaned.
Cleaning,
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of aroma hops. So in this one, we dry hop it at a pretty high rate. Mostly Simcoe, but you'll get that nice sort of floral nose as well. We got a series of double IPAs. They're all themed with record labels and bands because there is nothing in this world that pairs better with beer than rock and roll. It's a given fact. You could wax lyrical about food pairings, but rock and roll, that's where it's at. So fortunate enough to get together with a bunch of record labels, bunch of bands. It came together very naturally, really. Music is a big part of my brewing day. You know, I was in the basement brewery for 17 years, most of that by myself. So, you know, 10 hours of music every day.
Right.
No, I was just talking to myself otherwise, you know. So I listen to a lot of music. I buy a lot of records. I'm a big vinyl fan. I buy a lot of records that I listen to in the brewery.
Okay.
And, you know, I do a lot of social media stuff on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. And, you know, there's only so many pictures of a brewery you can see. They're all the same.
Right.
So I took to, you know, just to say what I was doing on any given day, I just took a picture of the record that I started out listening to that morning, you know, and said, hey, this is what I'm listening to, this is what I'm brewing, this is what's happening in the brewery.
So
and then, you know, the record labels, I sort of got friendly with them, communicated with them, and, you know, we'd done a big beer with the Sword a few years ago, a heavy metal band out of Texas, and, you know, so it sort of evolved from that, really. You know, these guys heard about that, and they were like, oh, mate, you know, we'd like to do a beer,
cool.
and I'm like, I would love to do it. So.
Who does like all the label art? Is it all different?
Well, these
the bands, or is that
each
bands?
label is very specific to that band and that label. So, for instance, the Vivictus for Wounded Giant out of Seattle, we couldn't use the album cover. It's the beer release is tied into the release of their album, Vivictus, but the album cover was Rasputin. It's exactly the same as the beer Rasputin. So the band gave us this, which was a T-shirt design, I think, that they'd never used before.
Okay,
so,
that's
cool. That's really
so
cool.
we got to use that.
The labels are killer.
And the first in the series with The Well was their album cover. The second with Mothership was the cover of their single, Crown of Lies. So they're all very specific to that. They're on tour now. They're coming to Baltimore. So you know, I couldn't be at the show and not have the beer in my hand, and we long since sold out. So
That's great.
They were kind enough to say that it was cool to brew it again.
These beers are all killer.
So the base beer for everyone is exactly the same.
Okay.
So I'm brewing the same beer. It's just the hops are different in each one. So the hops in the first one are different to the second one, although one hop has been carrying through the series as a minor hop. But in each different beer, there's a particular hop that is the sort of dominant hop. There's usually 3, 4. The next one, I think there's going to be 5 different hop varieties. This one is mostly Simcoe. Okay, but it was bittered with Magnum, finished with Simcoe, dry hopped with Simcoe and Centennial.
And you have the one coming up for Doomfest.
Yep, we are a sponsor for Maryland Doomfest, which is out in Frederick in June. Brewing a special beer for that too. So I'm pretty excited.
It won't be a double.
No, this one is going to be more of an English IPA, but with a really cool sort of newish English hop called Jester, which I'm a big fan of, and I've been trying to get hold of for several years now without success, but finally managed to get enough. So we're going to do a nice, probably 6% ish English IPA, but then slam as much jester into the dry
Nice.
hop as we
That sounds-
possibly
that sounds
can.
terrific, yeah.
The
So
next
we're
one
both huge fans of your stuff.
we're doing
by the way.
with a band called Summoner and Magnetic Eye Records. That's a May 13th release at the brewery. Cool. That's going to be all Australian and New Zealand hops. So
nice.
it's
Wow,
going to be
that's awesome.
bittering with Southern Cross, which is one of my favourites, and then there'll be some Pacific Jam and some Galaxy in the dry hop, and probably some Southern Cross as well. So
Yeah.
so again, it's going to be the same base beer, but it's going
It's a
to
different hop.
Different
be
hop profile.
completely different. Yeah. Things like this are very personal to me. This series, I got to set that up. Some other ones that are extremely personal to me are that I release a birthday on each of my kids.
Oh, nice.
A beer on each of my kids' birthdays.
really
So we're coming up to 2 of them. Early June was the birthday of my daughter. She's about to turn 4. We do a beer called Summer Babe,
Nice.
which is brewed with raspberry and rose petals. So that's nice, easy drinking summer beer. I'm loath to use the word girly, but that's, it was geared towards, the inspiration from having my first baby girl.
Yeah.
Then my son Jacob, his beer comes in July
Nice.
4th, baby. It's called
Oh,
Jacob's Summer
nice.
Celebration. That's sort of a virgin on a double IPA, but it's really just a big amber ale. Lots of hops. Originally, it's changed a bit now, but originally everything was based around his birth weight, which was 8 pounds, 8 ounces. So they were like, when we brewed it in Pratt Street, there were 8 pounds, 8 ounces of bitter in hops, 8 pounds, 8
that's
ounces
cool.
of
That's cool.
dry hop, and it was 8.8%.
So it must help make it a little more personal for you.
Yeah,
or is it very personal
exactly.
thing?
And I've been very fortunate in that throughout my brewing career in Baltimore, the owners have, within reason, let me do whatever I wanted. Every now and then we get shot down, but for the most part, I can do these.
Yeah,
these
Rob
things.
and I are kind of geeking out a little bit. Like we're huge fans. We're big time fans.
So,
Thank you.
speaking of that, and your origins in Baltimore, Pratt Street and Oliver's has been around for a while. I don't know that people really realize that.
Yeah,
That's about 93,
it's sort of
right?
In terms of local brewing, it's sort of the best kept secret, really. I mean, because up until fairly recently, where we expanded to
Having your own
production,
brewery, right.
yeah, it's and canning, which obviously gets us in a lot more places. Before that, it's a brew pub in the basement of a restaurant. So on Pratt Street, so a lot of business, but a lot of that business is tourist business and people going to the ballpark and stuff like that. So we didn't really distribute out a whole lot because most of our production was
Right there. So everything was
in-house.
canned. It wasn't,
Yeah, so
now that you have
I
package,
still
it's a different story.
Exactly. So I still hear that. Have you been around for long? I'm like, yeah, 93.
Have you been there the whole time?
I've been there since 99.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, so I moved from the UK tail end of 99 and
Wow.
just so happened to get a job there. And
So you're still
Yes,
like
it's-
one of those breweries that's like at the forefront of Baltimore brewing because you've been around. So you've seen a lot of changes in it.
oh yeah, it's a different beast these days. It's quite amazing. When I first started, there was Oliver's doing the sort of English thing, pretty much just exclusively English thing. You had De Groen's doing
Right.
the German thing, and then Brewers are obviously with the Belgium thing. It was
Clipper
really,
City.
yeah,
well-
Clipper City as well, with sort of a mix of English American beer. So stylistically, everybody had their own sort of style they were aiming for. Those days are largely gone now. It's more of a free for all. You're not limited to
Right,
doing
because
one thing.
I
It's like-
remember thinking a lot of people think Oliver's, they still think English style ales.
Yeah, and that's a large part of what we do, and it's that's important to me. Obviously, there's not too many people who brew an English dark mild year round, but we do, and I'm very proud and very happy about that. But
ESBs and those
Yeah.
kind
yep.
of styles.
But
Yeah.
on the flip side, we get to do
Yeah.
some huge double IPAs and experiment a bunch of things. We just recently brewed a Belgian style smoked pale ale with still water.
nice.
Oh, that peach beer. Yeah, we have it
it's
here.
peach
Yeah,
with smoked
yeah.
smoked beer.
I'm a big fan of the Coventry cream.
Yeah, so that's very classic English.
That's
beer,
such
yeah.
a
So-
such
It's
a
a great
delicious
beer. It's a
beer.
great beer. All of them. I mean, Balls, Riding Easy.
Yes.
The cherry one, the cherry blossom that comes out this time of year. The Creator Destroyer, which is the coffee.
And we're naming all the package stuff for the most part. So it's
Right.
it's awesome how package has really opened up.
Yeah,
some
that's.
doors.
I mean, it really has. I mean, first with the sort of advent of growler stations at shops like this, we were able to get out there a bit more. But now, obviously, having cans, we
Gets
got
in
a
a
pretty
lot of
pretty
spice.
cool range of cans, and
cool.
they're pretty sexy looking cans. I think people are attracted to them, and obviously
And
I'm
cans are
biased,
just
but I
such a
think the
great
product
package, so.
product keeps them coming back. So it's doing really nicely. Between when I started in Baltimore back in the late 90s and now, seasonality has changed so much that there used to be a very regimented schedule for seasonal beers, but now there's so many just whatever the next thing you want to brew is, because the customer has changed, the palate has changed, and everybody seems to be looking for the next they just want to try a new beer.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not like the old days where you had your core beers and then you do a seasonal every couple of months, and your core beers would be on somewhere and they'd always be on. But now it's just everything gets rotated. So you need to keep doing new things. So there's part of it now is the seasonal beer, such as the cherry blossom,
Right.
which we always will brew at the start of spring.
Which is a wheat beer.
Yes, it's a wheat ale with cherry juice in it.
That's really good.
But then, so that's a given sort of seasonal product for us at a certain time. But then everything else, most of the other things we just pop out when we're like, oh, what are we going to do next? And if there's space in the brew schedule that doesn't involve brewing IPAs, then we can.
Then you can do that.
We
Right.
get in. Obviously, we got a lot of different beers, and we have commitments to brew those things.
And there was some
4216 Shannon Drive, Clifton Park area. So Google it, look it up. Come on, we're open Fridays 4 till 8, and Saturdays noon till about 5.
And then so they have the release this week at Crown of Wise. 2 weeks is the next beer. The
May
next in
13th.
the next in this series. Go up and check them out. It's a great space. We've been there a number of times. We've had a bunch of our friends go up there. It's a great space. Good people. So go check it out.
Thank you guys
Cheers.
again for watching Shelfies. Thank you, Steve
Thank you,
Jones, for
Steve.
coming on the show. And hey, see you next week on Shelfies. Maybe we'll have a little Monocacy Brewing Co. Radiance.
Oh, nice.
And cut.